Since
There we go. You're live.
Yay! Cool. Okay, so tonight we're on December what's today?
29th.
29th. Yeah, that day. December 29th, 2022. It's the last book club of 2022. That's cool for you people over on the YouTubes. And we are reading out of the Poetic Edda, translated by Jackson Crawford. We're doing Helgakviða, Hundingsbana. I butchered the names probably, but it's okay. The first poem of Helgi, Killer of Hunding. The Helgi of the next two poems is the son of the heroes Sigmund and his wife Borghild. This is the first of these two poems. Begins with Helgi's birth, which is attended by the Norns, goddess-like figures who determine fate. The Norns predict Helgi will be famous and rule a wide kingdom. A raven also predicts his success as a warrior. Helgi lives up to these expectations and kills King Hunding while he is still only 15 years old. He refuses to compensate Hunding's sons for their father's loss, and he kills them in a subsequent battle. After this battle, he sees Valkyries in the sky, and he desires Sigrun, their leader. She tells him, however, that she has been promised by her father, Hogni, to marry King Hrothbrod. She asks Helgi to fight him for her hand in marriage, which Helgi eagerly agrees to do. He sails with a great navy to do battle with the Hrothbrod. There's no the there. Upon arriving at his kingdom, Hrothbrod's brother Gusmund interrogates them from the shore, and becomes embroiled in an exchange of insults with Helgi's half-brother Sinfjotli. This exchange comprises ST. I don't know what the ST is supposed to abbreviate for. 32 through stanza. Yeah, 32 through 44. I realized it immediately after I said it.
Right.
Anyway, Helgi finally stops the banter by entreating them to fight with weapons like men. Helgi and Sinfjotli win the ensuing battle, and Sigrun congratulates Helgi, telling him he has won Hrothbrod's lands as well as her hand in marriage. And then we have the first stanza. Jay, do you want to read the first stanza, or do you want me to?
I got it. Helgakviða, Hundingsbana 1. Here begins the poem of the Volsungs, the poem about Helgi, the killer of Hunding and Hrothbrod. It was in ancient days when eagles cried and holy waters fell from the mountains of heaven. Then Helgi, the bold man, was born to Broghild in Braland.
It was night in the house. Norns came in, the ones who make fate for the noble born. They said the boy would be a very famous king. He would be considered the best of all rulers.
They decided his fate with their power, but when they broke the walls of Braland, they had bands made of gold. They laid them down under the nighttime sky.
They hid their ends in the east and west to show the lands this king would rule. One of the Norns hid the third end in the north and said, "This," and she said it would hold forever.
Azra, do you want to read?
Sure. One thing grieved Sigmund, Helgi's father, and his wife Borghild, Helgi's mother. One raven said to another raven, expecting a feast, "I know something." Should I keep going?
stanza by stanza. We'll trade off between the four of us.
Okay.
Sound good? Sigmund's young son will wear armor. He's just a day old. His first day has just dawned. But he has sharp eyes like a war king. That boy's a friend of wolves. We will be happy and well fed.
The boy grew up and was called Prince at a young age. They said he was already reckoned as a man. King Sigmund himself returned from battle to give the young prince a worthy sword.
He gave him lands. So fuel.
Is it me or is he breaking up?
Yeah, you keep breaking up on this end too.
Yep.
Let me try.
I can edit this out. It's okay.
Okay. That better?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Sigmund named him Helgi and gave him lands Solfjol, Snowfjol, Sigurðsfjallar, Hingsrath, Hringsthroth, Hotten, Himninvangar. Young Helgi held a ready sword.
Then the young king began to grow up, a noble tree in the company of his kinsmen. He paid his men in gold. He was no miser with the loot from his campaigns.
He did not have long to wait for battle. When the young man was just 15 years old, he killed the brave King Hunding, who had ruled lands and men a long time.
One day the page will turn. But the sons of Hunding sent him a message. They demanded compensation in the form of money. They had much to avenge. Helgi had killed their father and taken much wealth.
Helgi paid them nothing of what they asked. He would not compensate them for the loss of their father. Instead, he called for stormy weather, for rain of gray spears, and the wrath of Odin.
Those kings rode to battle. The battle was held at Helgakviða. They broke the peace of King Frothi's time. Odin's wolves did not go hungry.
Helgi rested after he killed them beneath Arastein, Alf and Eyjolf, Hjorvarth and Havarth, all the sons of Hunding. He destroyed the whole family of that warrior.
Then the light... Sorry, Heather, go ahead.
Then light shone from Helgakviða, and in those lights he saw lightning. He saw Valkyries, wearing helmets in the high heavens. Their armor was bloody, and banners waved from their spears.
Right away, King Helgi asked those armed women, those southern Valkyries, if they would go home with the warriors that night. Battle raged all around.
And Sigrun, daughter of Hogni, said to that king from her horse, as the battle died down, "I think we have other business than drinking beer with warriors tonight."
My father promised me to Hrothgar, the grim son of Granmar. But I tell you, Helgi, I said to that good king that he seemed no better to me than a tomcat.
Now he will come for me in a few short nights, unless you invite him to battle, or take me by force for my father.
Helgi said, "Do not fear for Helgi, enemy of Hrothgar. There will be a battle before I fall dead."
King Helgi sent messengers by air and sea to summon an army. He promised his men and their sons that there was plenty of gold to be won.
He said, "Tell my men to go straight to their ships. Be ready to sail out of Brandi. The king waited there till hundreds of men came to him from Hundingsbana.
His own ships left their moorings at the docks of the Staffness, decked with gold. Helgi asked Hjörleif then, "Have you taken count of our brave men?"
Hjörleif said to Helgi, after he began to count the serpent-headed ships out of the Tronjuri and the men on them as they entered Orvanth.
I count 1,440 trusty men, and still twice as many of the king's men are in Hatton. I expect the battle.
The captain drew the covers back, woke up the king's men on board to see the dawning sun, and the kings hoisted up their sails in Verensfjord.
Eagles cried and swords clashed. Shield struck shield. Vikings rode. That fleet of kings traveled swiftly far from land.
It was like hearing the hills or the oceans breaking apart, to hear the waves breaking against those long ships' keels.
Helgi commanded them to raise the sails yet higher. The waves of the storm would not swallow them, though the shipwrecked god's daughters might try to drown the ships.
But bold Sigrun protected them as she flew above their danger. With the strength of Ran in her hand, she saved the ships at Gnipalund.
There we go. The fleet of beautiful ships moored in the evening at Unnarvegir, and then the people of Svarensjok could count their enemies with worry in their thoughts.
Among them, half-god Guthmund asked, "Who is the king that leads this army and directs this force against our land?"
Sinfjotli, Helgi's brother, spoke up from his ship with a red battle shield rimmed with gold. He was a leader of men who knew how to answer and exchange words with noble men.
Tonight, when you feed the pigs, when you throw some food in your dog's bowls, tell them this. The Volsungs have come from out the west, or out of the east, eager warriors from Nipalund.
In the middle of the fleet, Hrothbrod will find Helgi, a warrior who is reluctant to flee. He is a man who has often fed eagles while you sat on millstones kissing slave girls.
Guthmund said, "My lord, you don't know much about old stories if you mock noble-born men with lies. You have eaten dead men's flesh. You have killed your own brothers. Your cold mouth has often sucked wounds. You have lived hated by everyone in a stone pile."
Sinfjotli said, "You were a witch woman on Varency, a crafty woman, a teller of tales. You said you would never accept any man as husband except me."
You were a Valkyrie, a fierce, foul female in Odin's service. You self-righteous woman, you wanted all the men in Valhalla to fight over you.
You and I had 9 wolf children on Segunis, however you pronounce that. I was the father of them all.
Guthmund said, You weren't father to any wolves. You're older than all of them. I remember when some giant woman castrated you in Gnippenland on the Thornses.
You were Sigurd's stepson. You slept in the straw at home. You were used to hearing wolves cry in the woods outside. All your misfortune came to you when you cut open the chests of your brothers. You've won a famous name for your evil deeds.
Sinfjotli said, You were the mayor of the stallion Granny at Bravo. You wore a gold bit, and you were used for racing. I've often ridden on you on downhill races. You were a tired, skinny mare, a troll beneath my saddle.
No one thought you were any kind of man when you milked the goats of Gulnir, or when you were the daughter of Imt, wearing a ratty dress. Should I say more?
Guthman said, I would rather feed your carcass to the ravens at Freckenstein than feed your pigs or throw food in your dogs' bowls. Let's exchange sword blows.
Helgi said, it would be better for both of you, Sinfjotli, to fight, to feed flesh to the eagles, than to exchange these pointless words, even if you hate each other so immensely.
Grander's sons seem no good to me, but it's appropriate for nobles to speak truth only. They showed us at Munsheim that they have the courage to draw swords.
Guthmund and his brothers rode their horses named Svipeth and Sveguth to Solheim. Insert correct end of word. Over valleys wet with dew, over dark hillsides, the earth shook where the men rode.
They met Hothbrod at his gate. They said that Helgi had come to bring war. Hothbrod said that Hothbug was there with a helmet on his head. He wondered about the way his brother was riding. He asked, why have you come with this worried expression?
Guthmund said, swift ships are here, sailing ships with long oars, carven oars, and many shields, a great army of kings, the valorous Volsungs.
15 armies are coming upon land. 8,400 are still out in Sun. Blue-black ships, decorated with gold, lie at anchor at the gates of Nibelund. That's where the biggest part of their armed force is. Now Helgi will strike without delay.
Hothbrod said, let our saddled horses run to the battle. Let Sporvednar run to Spar and Sheath, and Melnir and it's literally the same word, but different. Anyway, Melnir and Melnir to Mirkwood. Let no man who can draw a sword stay behind.
We'll invite Hogni and the sons of Spring, Atli, Yngvi, and Alf the Old, the ones who are eager for battle. Will show strong resistance to the Volsungs.
There was a storm there when the pale spheres started to fly at Freckenstein. Helgi, the killer of Hunding, was always at the front when men were fighting. He was always at the front. He never thought of fleeing. That warrior had a hard heart.
Valkyries came down from heaven.
Take your meds.
They defended their princes. The roar of war grew greater. Then Sigrun, the flying Valkyrie, spoke as the wolves began to tear the fallen.
Hail to you, Helgi, son of Volsungs. Enjoy these Valkyries and live well now that you have killed that unfleeing prince who killed another.
Now it's fitting for you, king, to take the golden rings and take me to be your powerful wife. Hail to you, king. Enjoy both the daughter of Hogni and the lands of Hringstath, both the victory and the lands. Now the battle is done.
And that is the end of this book.
That is the end of that poem, not the book.
Right. Well, this small book within the book. Right.
People on YouTube would be confused. But anyway. Questions, comments, concerns from everybody but Beast, because he already knows. Sorry, you have any questions?
Not really. What I've got is a quote from Maria Quillhog, that relates, I think, to this poem, although as we just read it, I'm not sure. It's about translating the actual names instead of just reading the names as they are, and says that when one realizes that a Viking prince has to fight a giant called Hatred, another called Rage, and must be reborn in order to win a battle he lost in his previous life, the Battle of the Rock of Greed, in order to restore the peace of wisdom and gain entry to the divine afterlife. What at first sight appeared to be just a heroic legend of a tough guy who fights giants becomes a spiritual parable.
Interesting.
Who was that from?
Maria Quillhaug in The Seeds of Yggdrasil.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Maria Quillhaug in The Seeds of Yggdrasil.
I'll have to look that up. I like that.
I do too. I wrote it down.
Warning, the book is a bit of a textbook. It's pretty thick, so just be warned. It's huge.
Yeah, that's right up our alley.
I'm sorry, have you met me?
That too.
Only vaguely so far.
I did write. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. I did write down in my notes as a reminder to peoples on the YouTube that here in the Helgakviða poems, at least, because those are the first couple in this section of the Poetic Edda, that these are not the tales of the gods anymore, it's the tales of the heroes, which means they're immortal. So when you hear the word Viking, that's still a job.
Right.
Yeah, I was about to ask. This is the first one of the heroes, right? We've left the poems of the gods.
Yes.
Right.
And I made a note to myself to make that note.
That was actually
Somehow
what I was going to say. So we were on the same page.
Yes.
Somehow, until now, I hadn't registered that this was a one of the Volsung poems.
Yes, it is. However, there is a mention of a half god in there, Guthmund. Maybe Beast knows more about that person and who their parent be. Maybe.
Guthman.
If not, Google has the answer.
That's where I'm going. Guthman derives from the Old Norse name Guthmundur, composed of two elements of Gother, or god, deity, divine being, plus Mund, which is protector, protection, tutelage, guardianship. The element Mund is cognate to Old English Mund and Proto-Germanic Mundo. In turn, name means god protection, protected by God. Semi-legendary Norse king in Jotunheim in Finnmark, ruling over a land called Glæsavellir, which is known as the warrior's paradise. Gudmundur shares the same name as his father. Ulfhedin was added to the son's name to differentiate father from son. According to some sources, Gudmundur Ulfhedin's son was Heithrekr Ulfhammer.
Okay.
So apparently he was a king in Jotunheim, ruling in Finnmark over the land of Glæsavellir, the warrior's paradise.
Cute.
So it might be lending credibility to the fighting army for them to say, we had this god king on our side fighting with us and for us.
Yeah. I noticed when they were talking about when he was born, and they were talking about he has the eyes of a warrior and all this, and they gave him a sword when he was like an infant, which is insane, but I guess it's a good lesson. What if he gets hurt? Lesson learned. Anyway. Please don't give swords to infants, people on YouTube. Not good. Anyway, in stanza 9, it says that he was no miser. Miser would be, when I hear that, my mind immediately goes to snow miser and heat miser, which means that is the thing that they do. They're heat miser, they do heat, that's what they do. Like, they're good at it, in a sense. If he was no miser, does that mean he was not good at it?
No, in this sense, they're talking about because of it being the end of December, Ebenezer Scrooge was a miser. He pinched his pennies. He would not give out freely. In this context, miser is someone who is very stingy with their wealth. They're saying he was not a miser. He was not a Scrooge. He gave to his men quite liberally and paid them quite well. Paid his men in gold. He was no miser with the loot from his campaigns. Whenever they went out and did their Viking, all the goods they brought home, he distributed fairly amongst his men, not here's one for you, two for me.
Okay, cool.
Being a ring giver was something positive that could be said about a king and such back then. So, one thing I want to add on the giving a sword to a baby, though, is that in the mythology, that's not that weird a thing. You've got what was it? Was it Magni was 3 days old? I think it was. No, he was 3 years old when he picked up Thor's what was it? Hrothgar's leg off of Thor after their battle.
Right.
And then Vali, I believe it was only a day old when he avenged Balder.
Right.
So, probably trying to compare him to them.
Right.
Probably.
In old pictures, it was a common practice to give the infants the family sword. That was believed to bestow upon the infant the strength and courage of the warriors that came before. Usually they waited a little bit longer. They didn't give it to him at 3 days old, but it was commonly a thing. And you got to remember, these back then, the swords were they're not katanas, they're not samurais, they're not sharp edged. Most of the swords were used for hacking and bashing. The points were pretty sturdy, but the edges were not, let's go shave our beards with them. So having one in with a child who is not going to be big enough or strong enough to actually swing the sword, you're not running a great deal of danger of the kid hurt himself. It's not that sharp. Now, one thing, talking about his miserliness, or his lack of miserliness, if you notice here in it, they're talking about how he was a very unmiserly man, gave his kinsmen gold, shared all loot from his campaigns. 15 years old, he went and killed King Hunding, who had ruled lands and men a long time. The sons of Hunding sent him a message demanding compensation in the form of money. Helgi had killed their father and taken much wealth, and Helgi said, no, I'm not giving you nothing. Instead, he called a storm on him and sent a storm to rage over him instead. Here's a man who's known for handing out dollar bills, y'all, and he goes and kills this dude. And his sons say, okay, you need to pay the Weir Guild and give us recompense for our dad. And his immediate answer was, no.
Well, that could also be in the realm of, okay, why would I just stole this money from you? Why would I give it back?
Right.
Like, yes, you stole it from your dad, but who's your dad? It's one and the same at this point. If anything, you would have inherited it upon his death, but being that I'm the reason that he has a death, then no, I'm not giving it.
Right.
It's the opposite of the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Right. If you go down the next couple stanzas, they said, hey, give us money. He said, no. They said, all right, fine, then die. And he said, all right, bring it. And went to war and killed everybody. He destroyed the whole family of that warrior in Sons of 14. Helgi rested after he killed them beneath Utterstein. Ulf and Evolf, Hjorvarth and Havarth, all the sons of Hunding, he destroyed the whole family of that warrior.
Talking about all the people that came with him for that, it was the ultimate, don't talk about it, be about it. Come on then.
It leads you to wonder, though, why? It would be all speculation at this point. There's no mention here as to why, when he was 15 years old, he went and killed this dude. Why did he kill the king at 15? Why did he then decide to snub his nose and not pay the Weir Guild, and then decide to just wipe out the dude's entire family? I mean, that, especially in a culture that venerates ancestors and by extension your progeny as well, your family name is what you wear and it's the honor that you have. To wipe out all of the sons to where there's no chance of that line continuing into the future, that's a big insult.
Sounds like blood feud somehow.
Something like that, or the fact that he was 15 at that point. They were being drafted, for lack of a better word, into a war at 13 to 14, and he was 15. That put him somewhere in the high rank, along with his bloodline of things, because that tracks. And so he was probably following orders for at least half of it.
Yeah.
Or at least the first half of killing the king. He was probably just following orders of, hey, go kill this guy. And it's like, okay, for what, though?
Was he following his fate that the Norns, however you pronounce it, kind of gave him? Like, they already said when he was born, he's going to be a great warrior, he's going to do all of these things, he's going to be a great king. Is it just one of those situations where maybe it's not a why, maybe it is a why, but he was destined to do it. It was his fate. Right. It was going to happen one way or the other.
If he hadn't gone and killed the family and had that war, he wouldn't have been sitting on the battlefield when the lightning struck and he saw the Valkyries and said, "Ooh, you're pretty." You'll find in more stories to come, a little bit of preclusion here, the story of this is not over. This particular poem is done, but in the second and third poem that follows this, we'll find more about his mating with Valkyrie and the things that ensue from there. And it's, like I said, it's one of the things that it is predestined. The rest of the story would not be possible without him falling in love with the Valkyrie there on the battlefield. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of neat to see that. But we'll get into that as we delve into the next couple books. The poems. So.
This is one of the Volsung poems. Is there anything in the Volsunga saga on it? I just recently read the Nibelungenlied. I wouldn't remember anything of it from there. But the Volsunga saga?
We're actually going to get to that. We're going to get to that as our next book.
Okay, cool.
After we went to Poetic Edda, we're going to go into the Volsunga.
I'm going to write that down, because I asked Sprinkle about that earlier, and she said she didn't know. She had not planned the next book, but now I know.
Yeah. We're going to get into that, and then a few other interesting ones in my next little plans for this group.
Ooh, nice.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, that means I've got to order that book. So,
which translation of the Volsunga saga were you going to do?
That's an excellent question. We can discuss and see which ones people already have, which ones are available, and go from there. So I have, on my shelf upstairs, I have 4 different translations, I think.
I have none. I will have to Amazon look at things.
Yeah. But we can discuss it. We've still got a bit left here in the Poetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, y'all. Yeah.
I know, Zelda. I know. It's terrible.
Any other questions, thoughts, concerns, emotional outbursts?
I finished my notes.
the seed of Yggdrasil. That's the. I was hearing the leaf of Yggdrasil, and what I was pulling up was not what you were talking about.
No, that would be Freya Aslan.
Right.
I was on a whole other thing. I was hearing defeats.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, God. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Oof. 45 on Amazon.
I have it on the Kindle app.
Right.
I have Jackson Crawford's version of it.
The Volsunga Saga?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was sidetracked. I was looking at the seed of Yggdrasil.
Okay.
That one is currently $45 on Amazon for the paperback. Hey, the hardcover is only $388.99.
What?
There you go.
That just stabbed my wallet. It's not even in here.
Well, technically my birthday's in 2 days, so if anyone wants to buy me a hardcover, it's less than $4. So
I mean, happy birthday and all, but I have $1 in my account right now.
right.
Anyway, we got to figure out how to say bye to Craig.
Yep, I'll get that done. Give me just a second here, and I can edit all of this too.
Yeah, and then you got to tell me how you get rid of Craig.
You do /stop.